first thing we're going to look at is some reference points on the court that we can use to help identify the correct position of players on defence. Firstly here are the two lane lines, the two outside lines of the keyway. These will be used to identify the correct position when the ball is in the middle of the floor. This is the imaginary line that goes down the middle of the floor, often referred to as a split line, which should be a key reference point for when the ball is on the wings. This area between the sideline and the lane line we're going to just refer to as the right side of the floor. This area from lane line to lane line we're going to refer to as the middle of the floor. And on the other side, from lane line to sideline, we're going to refer to as the left side of the floor. Another reference point is what we call the line of the ball. So if a player was standing where this red dot is now, the line of the ball would be this yellow line across the court. So it's a line that runs through the ball from sideline to sideline. If the ball was a little bit further down the court here, the red line would make up the line of the ball. So again, just a good reference point when we talk about correct positioning for man-to-man defence. Defenders off the ball can generally be in an open stance or a closed stance, and this clip will identify those two ways of playing defence. Here you can see players one pass away from the ball effectively have a hand in the passing lane. That's considered to be in a closed stance, where they're making it difficult for players one pass away from the ball to be able to receive it. And it's a very common pressure kind of defence. Here you can see, again, the player one pass away from the ball is in an open stance, a closed stance. The three players furthest from the ball, the defenders, in open stances with their shoulders more parallel with the passing lane rather than a hand in the passing lane. You can see these two defenders here are in an open stance. The two players one pass away from the ball are in a closed stance. And coaches have the choice of whether they want their players to be in a closed stance or in an open stance, as the three players diagrammed here are. What we're going to look at here is good defensive position from a 5-out alignment, just with the offensive players remaining stationary. You see as the ball's moved around the key here, when the ball is in the middle of the floor, the defending players on the right and left side are getting no further into the key than to the lane line. 1 foot in the lane line perhaps, but no more than not 2 feet. When the ball's on that left wing, the two players guarding players on the right wing get to the split line. Anything further than the split line may be considered zoning. So the split line would be the point of reference when the ball's on that opposite wing. When the ball's, say, on the right side and a player is guarding someone in the middle cylinder, then getting across to the lane line would be considered appropriate. You can see the other two players on the opposite side to the split line. What we're looking at here is from a 5-out situation with stationary players, situations that may be considered zoning or over-helping. You can see as the ball is moved around here, all 5 defenders have both feet inside the key when the ball is in that middle cylinder, the middle of the floor. That could be considered zoning if done repeatedly. The ball gets to the wing and players on that weak side from the left side of the floor coming right across and straddling the lane line. Again, that would be considered over-helping or zoning off the ball. Clearly here you can see when the ball is in the corner here, all 5 players surrounding the ball. This would be considered zoning. And as the ball moves around, you can see the players on the weak side of the floor getting right across to the lane line and blocking up any possible driving lane for the offensive players. Again, this would be considered excessive helping and as thus be classified as zoning. In this instance, we're going to look at sagging defence. where there's no pressure on the ball. It would be expected with reasonable man-to-man defence that the person guarding the ball would be at least touch distance away from the ball, putting pressure on the ball area. Here you can see there's no effort at all to guard the ball. What we're looking at here is what would be considered good defence on cutting players, where players stick with the player that they're guarding, and I think it should be quite clear to everybody here that as the ball moves around and players cut, the defender sticks with that player and doesn't randomly switch off and get too focused on the ball. So players are continually sticking with their man, players off the ball are adjusting their triangles and getting to the reasonable floor positions, but there's no focus purely on the ball and zoning off the ball. What we're going to look at now is zoning on cuts, essentially switching off cutters and leaving them and focusing on the ball. You can see this player here is playing man-to-man on the ball at the moment, as the others off the ball are probably over-helping as well. But once the ball is passed and the player cuts, the defender goes with him to a point and then just ignores him and stays in a help position. Again, you can see it here. That player just passed the ball, the player circled, will go with the cutter until a point where they reach enter the key, and then they'll just ignore the cutter and get focused back on the ball again, looking to overhelp and zone towards the ball. So any time when the defenders are continuously not following the cutters and staying in excessively helping positions, this could be interpreted as zoning and breaking the rules. What we're looking at here is defensive positioning against a 4-out 1-in offensive structure. Again, just using stationary players. As you can see, as the ball moves around, players off the ball are getting to reasonable help positions. When the ball's on the left wing and players are guarding people on the right wing, getting to the split line would be the expectation, not coming right across to the lane line. Players one pass away from the ball in a normal defensive triangle. The person guarding the post player can play close and tight to them, and as it moves around, reasonable position is held. This clip shows what would be essentially considered zoning against a player flashing from the low post to the high post. You can see this player on the left lane here flashes from low up to the high post area. The player who is allegedly playing man-to-man on him stays at the basket, essentially zoning the basket. No one has moved with that cutter as they would if they were playing proper man-to-man defence. This would be considered zoning. What we're looking at here is, again, zoning on cuts from a 4-out 1-in alignment, where defenders basically ignore cutters and stay focused on the ball, with all defenders with 2 feet inside the key, ignoring split line help positioning and over helping essentially. In this video we're going to look at good man-to-man defence when teams are also looking to double team the ball. You can see here we have a double team on the ball. The 2 closest players to the ball are playing man-to-man on their player. The 5th player is looking to guard the 2 open players. Again here, good double team set. Closest guy is guarded. The 2 players off the ball are looking to match up to players. And when the ball is passed out of the double team, players quickly match up. Again, you can see here good man-to-man positioning off the ball. We get a double team on the ball here. 2 players closest guarding 1 pass away. The 5th player is looking to guard the 2 players off the ball, ready to rotate to whoever receives the ball. This would be considered good man-to-man principles while still looking to double team. This clip highlights what would be considered zoning off the ball in double teaming situations. You can see here again all 5 players have 2 feet inside the key. In this situation the double team is set and the other 3 defenders stay right back inside the key without even leaving the key. 2 of those players need to match up to players away from the double team. Again, you can see once the double team is set, the other 3 defenders just stay inside the key. This will be considered zoning if repeatedly done. This clip just shows some good man-to-man defensive principles against a team running 5-out motion, and it's pretty clear in the play here that the players stick with their players There's no excessive helping. Weak side defenders get to the split line. If the player is guarding someone in the middle third of the court, they can get to the lane line. But generally it's easy to see that each player is with a player. They go with them on cuts. There's one player responsible for the ball, and the other four players are generally trying to stay in a good defensive triangle. And this is essentially the sort of defense that we encourage in under 12 and under 14 basketball. In this final video, we're going to look at some 5-on-5 up and down the floor action with some instances of good man-to-man defense, like we're seeing here, where all five players were clearly matched up. A transition situation here, but even when the ball comes down the floor and there's no shot, you can see that there's the defensive team attempts to match up and find a player each. Whereas we come back down here, you can see the white team get all five players into the key with 2 feet inside the key. Continually doing this would be considered zoning. In this clip here again, you can see good man-to-man defense with players moving and maintaining good floor position off the ball. Even after the score, you can see the defensive team all clearly are matching up to a player and playing full court man-to-man defense here. And as the ball even advances down the floor, you can see that players clearly have got allocated plays that they are moving out to guard in good attempts to play man-to-man defense. On the change of possession, you can see the whole blue team quickly sprint back. Whilst it could be considered transition defense, they all get back and stand inside the key, and again aren't really matching up to a player. They're more concerned about guarding the area. Most of them, again, anytime you have all five players with 2 feet inside the keyway, inside the lane line, that is going to be considered zone defense if it's repeatedly done by a team. Again, good man-to-man defense here. Again, clear that each player is guarding a particular player, and clear that good floor position off the ball is being maintained without over-helping. In the transition situation here again, you can see players are clearly going out and matching up to players and getting to a man-to-man situation off the ball as well as on the ball with reasonably good floor position. You can see the blue team again, though, once they lose possession of the ball, predominantly collapse back to the keyway and aren't really specifically guarding a player. All five players, when they have their feet inside the key, it's going to be difficult to argue that you aren't playing some sort of sagging defense or over-helping defense that would also be considered zoning.